Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. I am Kris. This video is sponsored by Mohamad. This is a reality of, oh, he said it before. Sihr? No, Sihr? 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 Don't mind the TV in the background. Not in here, it's downstairs. This is Black Magic, Exorcisms, and Jinns. I'll have to hear it again. It's been a few hours, and I had a nap. So, I'm just tired. Before I get started, thumbs up, subscribe, donate to the channel through the thanks button. All donations are appreciated. If you do, you request a video, your name sponsors that video as well. You can still... I'm recording. You can still donate without... you can still request without donating. You could donate without requesting. It's up to you. All right, ready for this video?
They can never harm somebody except with the permission of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So to then summarize very briefly, so then what exactly is, how does this happen? That the man who wants to do this evil deed, the man or woman who wants to do this evil deed and become a magician, so they learn and study this art from somebody who's already trained. And this person will tell him, you need to do this and this and this. And again, this is filtered down through our horror movies as well. Now there's element of truth. Sit at 3 a.m. facing such a direction in the middle of a pentagon, and you draw it out, and you will have this color light, and you will have this and that. So these are signals being given to the jinn world that I'm willing to enter. So in reality, this is exactly how it happens, right? That these are signals that are being given to the jinn world that this is what the Babylon jinns were taught.
This is completely off record, but so when I gotta get a drink, gotta get some chocolate out of my mouth, on my throat. Okay. Really? Occasionally, I just like to, I guess, transport. So what was I gonna say? Oh. So, I used to have the little spirit box. It was on a little app on your phone. And hold on. I'm going to mute that. All right. Sorry about that. Okay. So, you used to have the spirit box on an app, and you can ask it questions, and supposedly it picks up, ghostly energy. And then every now and then you'll hear words fire through. Sometimes they don't make sense. Sometimes it's weird because you'll say my name, and it'll be, Craig. And it's like, nope, that's not my name. And then later on you'll hear, be careful. And then 30 seconds later, Kris. And you're like, all right, this is getting a little creepy now. Doesn't always work like that. If you ever watch YouTube videos, it's very sporadic sometimes. Some people know how to really make it sound like there's something there when there isn't. Some channels lie. So I noticed one time using one of these apps, I went home, like I used it, it was creepy. I went home, and I think it was about 3 or 4 days where things around the house, something like a shelf nailed into the wall, had been there for like 10 years, just fell. The sounds of footsteps. Hey, stop. Sounds of footsteps. Doors closing. Like you just hear a door slam shut, and you're like, what the hell? A lot of weird stuff like that. And it happened far too much at first to be very comfortable. And then after about 3 or 4 days, it just gradually went away. And when he talks about, it's an energy and stuff like that, or you're inviting, I started believing that when you use these things, you can't see whatever the other side. But imagine it's like space, right? It's just black. and then you have one figure that's like a silhouette of a person that's just bright white and just kind of emulating light. And that's how I pictured how I was being viewed in this other side. And that they couldn't see me, and then all of a sudden there I was. And so they all flocked to it like a moth for whatever reason, to get my attention, to talk to me, whatever their reasoning was. But when I stopped using it, it was like you shut off something like a light bulb, but that light is still there and then just slowly kind of fades. Come on, we're not. And just, that bulb is bright and then slowly fades away until it's, and that's how I figured when I stopped using it. That was what I looked like. My form slowly faded. And then once that light was gone after 3 or 4 days, they were no longer, things stopped happening. And I feel like they were no longer able to see me. They didn't understand why they suddenly could. I didn't understand why things were happening. But then after a while, it was like things just didn't. So every now and then, I would pop back onto that app and use it again and stop. And I might use it. The first time I used it for like 8 hours. The second time I used it like 15 minutes. And it was maybe a day. That was it. And I think that your light, you're showing yourself intensifies. This is just what I felt. It intensifies, and so they can attract to you. But that once you stop using it, that interaction, that door closes. And so your light beacon kind of then shrinks. That was just my interpretation of what I believe it was, because things just would gradually stop. I haven't used one in so long and nothing has happened. But the last time I did, there was a giant crash in the garage, and it ended up being these old cabinets secured to the studs in the garage just suddenly fell off. Like they ripped the screws out. It just doesn't happen. It was empty. There was nothing in there. And they had like, they spanned 4 studs, and there was like a screw at the top, a screw in the middle, and a screw at the bottom. So it's 3, 6, 9, 12 screws anchoring this thing into the wood. And it just fell out, ripped the screws out and everything. And I'm like, still sitting on the floor. I've never put it back up. But yeah, that's kind of how I visualize something like that. How the interaction can take place for some.
That how do you communicate with us? How do you get in touch with us? And from that has been developed, as we said, into madahib. But the point is, so the magician does this. And he will sit there. And subhanAllah, I've interviewed a number of these people before and after their tawbah, sometimes before, sometimes after. And yes, this is exactly the reality. That they will say that we did this. And every day nothing happened. So the jinn is seeing if you're serious or not, until finally one day, they see something, or a power, or a presence, or a voice, or whatever. And then they are told, do this. So raise it up a notch. Are you serious? Then do this. So then there's direct communication. They will go and do it. And then the relationship begins. And then this jinn that they contact, typically, and I say this from my own experience, I don't know of anything in the Quran and Sunnah that would support this, but nothing negates it as well. From my own experience is what I have found, that the jinn that communicates with the Sihr is not typically the jinn that goes and irritates or does the harm. Rather, that jinn does indeed have minions, servants. Because here's the point. The myth is that the magician controls the jinn. I've asked people, with what? Chains? Whips? How? What are you going to use to control the jinn? How? You can't even see it. How can you control it? But cannot the stronger jinn control the weaker jinn? In their own world? Yes. Because that's their world. And quite literally, the jinns are like some type of mafia with the boss, with the godfather at the figurehead, right? And the magician contacts one of the upper guys, one of the henchmen, one of the bigger, maybe even the boss himself. And then his work is subcontracted out. Literally. Tells one of the lower guys on the ladder, you have to go do that. Right? Minimum wage, outsourcing it, right? Outsourcing it. But no, not to India. No, don't worry. No. Having said that, there's a lot of it in India and Pakistan. Yes, unfortunately. It's reality, isn't it? Huh? It's the point being that, and this is my own experience, and Allah knows best, that I don't want to tell too many stories here, but let me just give one or two. So I've asked a number of jinns, why are you doing this? Jinns. Yeah, when I'm doing the exorcism. So I've said, when I get to the jinn to talk a few times, let me just. So I said, what are you getting out of this? What is it in it for you? And I've got multiple responses. Now, we don't believe necessarily the jinn, but these responses to me seem legitimate at the time. Because of the circumstances, because of this and that, so I'm not going to go into detail, but I've asked, let me not say I've asked, it has been said that a number of them said, so one of them said that if I don't do this, I will be punished by, they didn't mention Iblis, by the bigger guys, right? I'll be punished by the, because look, the thing is, when you're performing an exorcism and you are reciting Quran, the jinn is being tortured. The jinn is being tortured, right? And subhanAllah, we're already getting to almost to the end, that there's so much left to do. The jinn is being tortured. So in that stage, you know, you ask this jinn, wouldn't you rather just leave rather than be tortured here? I mean, why don't you leave? Because right now you're definitely not enjoying this, so just leave. And so the jinn says, if I leave, I will face that type of torture, and I'll be shredded to bits and whatnot, and therefore, and one of them even said, I would rather die in this way than what they would do. So whatever it is, I don't know, right? Whatever it is, that's not. In another instance, it said that I do this because, and this was only one time I heard this, I do this because I am honored when I commit the deed. When I do this, they give me, the big guys, they give me a lot of honor. Now, what is that honor? It's not money, but whatever it is. Just like we are motivated by money.
Could be self-respect, acknowledgement. If they're lower on the totem pole, an upgrade or a raise, not saying in pay, but their job. Now they're not having to be that low, I almost said person, on the totem pole.
Sure, the jinn have their internal motivations, okay? So this is that subcontracting out, right? That something is given to this entity, that makes it feel very, very big, very, like I'm willing to do this in order to get the promotion, whatever. Yeah, I mean, that's actually a good thing, promotion or the reward or whatever. And on one occasion, the entity said that, that it's beyond my control, that they have bound me physically from whatever that is, and I cannot stop doing this. It's like I don't have any choice here because they have physically bound me. And I kept on trying to get out how, but it wouldn't tell me. So the point is, and again, we don't know if this is true or not. We don't base our religion on this. But at the same time, hearing all of this, we see that there are multiple motivations. There are motivations that are different. Sometimes it's threat, sometimes it's bribe. And sometimes there seems to be some type of slave labor going on amongst them too. That it's not, I can't help it, it's just happening. But generally speaking, what we have discovered, all the people who do this, is that generally the jinn that communicates with the magician is not the jinn that actually ends up doing the deed. And of course, one of the things that clarifies this as well is that the quantity of jinn is far more numerous than the quantity of men. Because jinns procreate by the thousands. Every jinn has sired thousands. And each jinn lives for hundreds of years, if not thousands of years. So when you have jinns that are by the billions and billions and billions, so for sure it's easier to get, you know, cheap labor basically, right? Subcontract out and get it done. So, so much left, subhanAllah. Might have to go down to number 4. But let me, so we're going to have to skip over many things skip over the ahadith about magic, the types of magic, and astrology and its relation, all of this skipping over. Let's just get to some of the points that we need to really understand. I don't want to delay this to part 4. Maybe we'll have part 3. Maybe we'll have another part 3 about those things. Let's finish this by talking about how can we detect magic? When do we know if it is actually magic? When do we know if it is actually magic or not? And this is one of the biggest problems that our Muslim community has, that many people, especially our sisters, blame everything on magic. Slightest problem, jadoo, sihr, ayn, nazar. And this is a psychological problem. Wallahi, it's a problem. In my own humble experience, and I'm not somebody who has specialized, I just dabble in exorcisms or whatnot. In my own humble experience, I would say 95% of the times that people come to me and they think they have some sihr, it is mental sihr. Something is wrong up here. Okay? 95% of the time in my own experience, that they want to just blame something. That, like I said, the classic example, if you're selling food and the biryani is substandard and nobody's buying, don't blame sihr. You have to increase the taste of the biryani, for example, right? Here's the point. If you're having problems in your business, in your marriage, and this and that, before you jump to sihr, before you think something is wrong with, supernaturally, realize that, look, there are problems all the time. Do you really think every business is going to be successful? I mean, wallahi, everyone who started a business knows 9 out of 10 businesses are failures. This is just the rule of thumb, right? Do you think every marriage is going to be successful? Every marriage has its ups and downs. Every couple has its fighting. Even our Prophet ﷺ, he had some issues with his wives. From the Quran, we know this, right? So every time a couple fights, the wife thinks, oh, this is jadoo. I'm so perfect, my husband would never scream at me. I'm sorry, sister, but goes 2 ways, okay? That's the reality. And subhanAllah, I mean, this is the problem. This is the problem. So how then do you know if it's actually sihr or not? There are certain symptoms and signs. Now, I'm not even going to talk about the most obvious symptoms and signs, because if something is supernatural, you don't need to go through all of these long lists and whatnot, okay? If somebody is flying in the air, then you can pretty much rule out everything else, okay? Or if you literally see shaitan, literally you see it in the house, and it is, or you hear it, for example, or something, then of course, I mean, you rule all of this out. I mean, we're not talking about something that's self-evident, that's pretty clear. We're talking about, how do you know? So you will always have some symptoms, and the most common symptom is that when ruqya is done, Quran is recited, adhan is heard, then some type of reaction will occur. This is the most common way to detect if sihr has been done. That constant Quranic recitation and constant listening to the adhan should have some type of impact. And the worse the magic, the more immediate the impact. Okay? The worse the sihr, the more immediate the reaction to the sihr. And the more slight the sihr, the more prolonged. Again, I had to skip over a lot of stuff, but there are many types of sihr. And there's sihr that's so trivial that you hardly even know it, and it takes weeks even to figure out it's there. And then there's sihr that you simply bring the person in front of the one who's doing ruqya, and you see it right then and there with your eyes that this person is freaking out. So it's without even saying Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, without even saying anything, the person starts reacting just by seeing it, because it knows that you're going to recite on it. So it starts going berserk. So the point is, you can tell by Quranic recitation, by adhan, and seeing the impact. Another way to tell is that, as we said, inexplicable symptoms, i.e. beyond understanding. And that is that, for example, I give you a number of examples, that a person is tripping, and this is something I dealt with multiple times. Like he's, mashallah, tabarakallah, 30, 40, 50 years. He's not like a 2-year-old toddler. And for no reason, he's falling on the stairs, he's falling in the streets, he's falling. And he's like, I don't understand. I mean, and he said, I feel something. So a normal person who's healthy and whatnot is not just going to be slipping and tripping. And then he says, it's as if somebody pushed me. So there is something supernatural. Right? Something beyond what you understand. And I also gave the example of going to the doctor, and the doctors are all scratching their head. Everything seems normal to us. We don't understand why. You know, for example, a pain, and the pain is typically in the stomach or in the head or something, and the doctor's like, we're doing the MRI, we're doing the scanner, we're doing this and that. Nothing is there. So anytime the doctor has a diagnosable disease, it cannot be sihr. Because by definition, if it's a diagnosable, so the jinn does not give cancer. Okay? Cancer is a disease. The jinn does not create microbes or viruses and throw them in the body, right? If the doctor can say, oh, he has this virus, there's no jinn involved. Okay? So for a jinn to be there, for sihr to be there, has to be something above and beyond our regular realm. And many of us, and some of you doctors, have also dealt with these cases where the doctors just don't understand why this is happening.
I just want to say something that that kind of needs to be addressed by what he's saying about the pushing and stuff like that. I'm hoping that he's not trying to discredit my company, which is called Christopher and the Jinn BullyYou.com. You can come and pay a service, and I will send a jinn out, and it'll just start pushing people. I don't know if he's insulting my business by talking about that. It's very hurtful. Very, very hurtful.
Especially when it comes to marriage, because the most common type of sihr is breaking up a marriage. The most common type of sihr is breaking up a marriage. And this is by the testimony of the Quran. يُفَرِّقُونَ بِهِ بَيْنَ الْمَرْءِ وَزَوْجِهِ. So, couples having intimacy problems that doctors just don't seem to understand why. That you seem normal, the arousal is normal, let's say, in the man, only except when he wants to come to
Sorry, my phone was going off.
His wife, then all of a sudden he feels weird, or he feels a headache, or a lot of times there's a physical push, like literally a push back, and there's nothing you...
Kris Stanton and the Jinn BullyYou.com. It's not actually a real site. My apologies. But if you do want me to, I'm sure I can find a little person to go there and just like punch him in the shins or something. It's your call. Back to the video.
Can see there. So these are all supernatural symptoms that the doctor is like, you're nothing wrong with you. But for some reason, or also another sign is that anger or depression that is extreme and was not common before a certain incident. Now, some people have bad tempers. If they've had bad tempers their whole lives, there's no sihr. Okay? But some people are, mashallah, tabarakallah, very calm, very good. Then instantaneously, they just flip. And for the last year or 2 years, they seem to be a different person. Now, this is very common. If you hear somebody say, he seems to be a different person for the last, we went to our home country. This is very common. We went to our home country, ever since we came back, he seems to be a different person. This, now warning bells go off in my head when I hear this, okay? That this is not the regular habit of this man. As we said, some people have temperaments. So if a person is known to be of evil temperament, okay, that's the way some people are. But if somebody has a change that is overnight, and it must be instantaneous, because sihr is always instantaneous, right? That extreme depression, extreme anger, and these are the two main symptoms in terms of psychological, then we can diagnose further and read Quran and see what is happening. Another sign of sihr is unnatural aversion to a specific person or place that would not typically have been there. Okay? And again, if sihr is done between two people, so let's say a marriage was mediocre, right? Most marriages are okay, good, alhamdulillah. Instantaneously, the wife notices that my husband is never, ever nice to me, around me, wants to be away from me, whereas he wasn't like this for 10 years of the marriage. And always in a bad mood, always angry, always cursing, and yet he seems to be normal, not in my vicinity. Now, if this is an instantaneous change, because let's be honest here, sometimes a husband does not like his wife, and then things go sour, they go down south, okay? But we are talking about an instantaneous change. That's the key point here, that everything seemed to be normal, then somebody visited, or we went somewhere, or that, and now the two of them are not getting along. And again, it seems unnatural, like the wife saying, I didn't do anything. Or it could be the other way, the husband saying, I didn't do anything. And my wife is just, for some reason now, for years now, for months now. And again, one incident, don't think of sihr. One incident is everybody's marriage, right? We're talking about a continuous stream that never has an exception. I.e., always there's going to be a problem. For months and months and months. Then one can think about, and also, by the way, there's always going to be other symptoms, always. Of those symptoms also as well is change in sleeping habits or eating habits. Again, this is a sudden change. So for example, he used to like heavy foods, and all of a sudden he doesn't want to eat rice or meat, and he only wants to eat, you know, let's say vegetables, let's say, right? That would be a big change for me, for example, okay? All of a sudden, give up all meat, la hawla quwwata billah, right? And just become a strict, you know, vegan, yes. Without any reason, not that if he's talking about, I want to lose weight, I want to go, obviously we understand. Again, we're talking about inexplicable, okay? One case that I dealt with that, the person would literally have one meal a day of just leaves and broccoli, and that's it. Whereas before this was a young man, he would be eating like young men, 3 full meals. Whereas instantaneously, the mother's saying like, whatever food I give him, it comes back untouched. He doesn't want to eat anything. And staying the night awake and going to sleep right before Fajr is another sign as well. That you cannot sleep at night. Tossing and turning at night, and then right before Fajr, dead out for the most of the day. Because the shayateen go to sleep before Fajr. The shayateen go to sleep before Fajr, and they are active and awake at night. So a person who's always, he used to have a regular sleeping habit, then all of a sudden, and again, it must be instantaneous. If there's a change in habit, obviously that's natural, but an instantaneous change in habit. So again, these are all symptoms, and typically there's multiple. Rarely do you come across only one. Typically there's multiple of these symptoms. One of the most important symptoms is dreams. Dreams. It is rare, very, very rare to meet a person that has sihr who doesn't have bizarre dreams. This is one of the biggest warning signs. When I hear it, one of the first questions I ask is, what are your dreams? Tell me about your dreams. The ones that are the most awkward, the most embarrassing, the most vivid, you're not supposed to tell publicly, but tell me because I need to diagnose you as a person who's doing. So you hear the most vulgar or the most bizarre or the most frightening. And especially, and I say this, so here's another point. We need to differentiate between our imagination and between reality. So when I say this and all of a sudden tonight you have this dream, then this is your imagination. Okay? So I'm being very blunt here. To feel as if there's a pressure on your chest and you can't breathe at night. To see yourself being attacked by snakes, scorpions, black dogs, lions, to feel asphyxiated, to feel a presence, you know the sixth sense that they say, to feel a presence that I can feel there's somebody here and there's nobody there. These are all symptoms that are pretty common when it comes to sihr. And again, typically there's more than one of these symptoms that takes place.
I'm going to go ahead and stop it there. I should have stopped it just before he got into the dreams. but I knew he was going to talk a little bit, but I know he's in a hurry to kind of shorten it up, so that's why I let it play out. All right, well, we're going to end it here. This is part 5. We will be back with the 6th and finale. Oh, it just went through my head. Sihr. I was saying it in my head. I should have paused the video and just started repeating it. Sihr. Damn. All right, we're going to end it here. Till next time, have a good day. Have a good Sihr.